I am doing my story about leaving Berlin, going to Utah, and finally being released from my contract in Berlin. I call this chapter Berlin to Utah, leaving on a jet plane. Nothing like being in a supposed war created by another, but one that we must fight regardless. Only to have that war appear, to have it suddenly disappear. But the energy and damage linger because the inner domains of trust have become a wasteland. Now I have a way to exit Berlin and to go to Ballet West. Seems too easy. There must be a catch. It will not be easy, but it seems doable and manageable. I go about arranging all the flights, getting rid of my apartment, giving away the furniture, working my ass off in preparation to shift continents. Then there is the boyfriend, Peter. He is clearly going into distress at the news. We had gone to Flensburg and we had a wonderful time. I was not used to being treated from a higher standard of living. Many things were amazing. I remember the restaurant that was clearly some sort of Michelin star place. There were real silverware, fancy china, expensive cut crystal goblets for the wine. All of it was amazing and a very new experience for this Texas girl. His parents were lovely, a bit reserved and cool, but that is not unusual in my experience of meeting the descendants of two world wars. We stayed in a gorgeous room in the hotel, much fancier than anything I had been exposed to, and Peter and I walked on the dikes and I danced with muddy feet in the warm sunlight. One funny thing was that I wore a yellow-green shirt, and it seemed that the bees thought I was a hops flower, and I was repeatedly swarmed. Good thing I like bees, and I'm not afraid of them. We had a blast, and it felt more like vacation than at any time in my life. While it was only 3 days, it was a lovely 3 days. I had excitedly told him the news, but by the look on his face, my good news was not good news to him. I had told him from the beginning of our dating that I was leaving, but the hope of youth is something timeless and eternal. He was trying to be happy for me, yet I could tell that he was in distress. We talked about it, and I said clearly, "You are still in school for another 3 years to get your degree that you want in finance. That is important to you, and I need to do this. This is important to me. I do not feel at home in Germany, and this is not where I want to live the rest of my life. And you knew that." He had to agree, because I had been upfront about it all from the beginning. I began to notice a strong despair gaining a foothold over him. He was trying to stay clear, but his level of attachment to me was stronger than I realized. I am excited to go into a new world. I felt that Bruce Marks, the director of Ballet West, and I were on a better footing, and we were being amazingly honest and straightforward with each other. My conversations with him about the required performances to complete the Berlin contract were not that big of a problem to him. I found him friendly, easygoing, personable, and this gave my hope wings to fly back to America. I flew from Berlin to Heathrow in London, changed planes, and then flew from London to JFK in New York, only to change planes again and eventually get to Salt Lake City, Utah. I get to Utah only to discover that all my luggage is missing. All of it. I get to Utah with nothing, and it never shows up. Disappears into the luggage ethers. No point shoes, no tights, no leotards, no stage makeup, no hair pieces for performances, though I did not realize at that point in Ballet West I did not need them, but they were very expensive at the time and I was somewhat attached to them. No leg warmers, no ballet shoes, no skirts, no regular clothes, no tweezers, no regular makeup. You get the idea. I arrive in Utah with only the clothes on my back, and then I am in a scramble to get all the required gear to perform or rehearse, while also trying to get an apartment, a car, insurance, and a driver's license. Seems my European license did not cut it. Fortunately, The costume ladies at Ballet West helped out and had some shoes in my size, though they did not have my personal maker. For a dancer, that is like being used to Christian Louboutin and suddenly needing to adjust to Milano Blotnik. While both are great shoes, they require me getting adjusted to them and not feeling awkward. I notice a sort of cool reception to my arrival from the dancers, but not the director. But it often takes a moment for others to warm up to the new people. In the ballet world, there are protocols for where you stand at the bar in class and where you stand in the center work of a ballet class. Everyone knows that the other dancers have their places. All the good places will be taken, obviously. So I try to arrive early to warm up and get a lay of the land as to where there might be a spot. The best ally a girl has in a ballet company are the gay guys. They are upfront and will tell it like it is without fanfare or drama, though they will unabashedly tell you, "Oh, girlfriend, don't stand there if you want to keep those pretty teeth." It's meant as a jest, but it is a very serious thing. I was never the person who needed to be the center stage in class, but I like being the center stage on stage. Seemed the only place that was available was in the corner at the back of the room. Not a problem for me. That was my favorite place at SAB, and I had a similar spot in Berlin. So tucked into the corner, I just kept my head down and did not try to impress anyone. Honestly, I was just trying to get my legs back under me. I was still very weak from 3 bouts of pneumonia, underweight, and feeling stressed from all the changes. Those last few months in Berlin were a whirlwind of performances and dating, and all that was happening while dealing with a major move. I thought things went okay for a starting point at Ballet West, and I did some rehearsals, but really did not have time to take in the fact that there was a type of tension. Honestly, I felt it was me. I thought it was me. Inside, I was a train wreck, trying to look like I was okay. I was the new girl in the system and no one knew me. I had come from dancing in Europe. I did not have time or energy to dwell on the patterns or waves that my appearance either made or was not making in the system. I had to leave to go back to Berlin all too quickly, and before too long, I was on a plane heading towards those performances at the Deutsche Oper. Those shows went well, and yet the strain on me was heightened by the unraveling of the emotions in my boyfriend, Peter. There was an added complication because I had let my apartment go, so I was staying with him. He was becoming more and more distressed. I was pretty clear that while he was a lovely person, that my career was my top priority, not a relationship. I was very new to this intense emotional game of the heart. I did not really know how to feel past myself or deal with the emotions of another that was suffering. I was still very weak and trying so hard to just get my shit together. Because I had been in pain for so long, I was not operating at my optimum levels of awareness. While I was excited to start a new chapter in my life, I was also dealing with one more factor beyond my control. At that time, my mother was in the process of having her last and longest nervous breakdown. Through my life, I had witnessed the other 5 psychological, stressful moments when she had emotionally and mentally fallen apart, but this one was going to take her 9 years to fully recover, and her level of intense upset was adding to my levels of distress. I had the feeling that everyone was pulling on me in opposite directions: my boyfriend, my old job, my new job, and now my mother. It was a lot. Much more than I cared to consider. I think some part of me knew that if I let in the feeling all those issues were promoting in me at once, it might collapse my health. And I was already dancing on a knife's edge. My next trip from Berlin back to Utah, shockingly, had the same result. My luggage disappeared from Heathrow Airport and was never seen again. I think, how can this happen twice? What is the universe trying to tell me? This time, the costume designer at Ballet West, David Huvel, asked me to bring those special German sewing pins. They have glass balls at the end and can pierce many layers of fabric. They're super strong. To him, here in Utah, I was more than happy to do that. I had bought probably 1,000 of them, wanting to make a good impression. It made me sick to have to tell him that they were lost into the ethers of the luggage gods this time, and it was the second time for me. He took it well, but I was once again without clothes, makeup. Well, you get the drift. This time while I am in Utah, my boyfriend Peter is calling incessantly, crying on the phone about how terrible it is and that he misses me and how much he's in love with me. I am already an emotional wreck and deeply exhausted in a way that I did not want to admit. Night after night, he is calling, miserable and wanting me to come back. And each day I think I can't take another day of this. I am living inside my own bubble, just trying to survive. I am keeping my head down in Ballet West because I just don't want to deal with one more stressor. Bruce Marks is being really wonderful, funny, engaging, kind, and oddly sharing of things that interested him. We talk about Europe and our favorite things about living there, museums, cafes, and the funny cultural norms of there compared to here. I am not used to such conversations with the director, and I'm deeply honored by that. Somehow, the easier the process was with him, the harder other things became in other areas. It was very clear to me that Bruce Marks was gay. Not a problem. Ballet is full of gay men, and they're fantastic and awesome. Even though he was married, and it seemed clear that things were rocky at best between him and his wife, though it was never anything he said, it was just a feeling. While I had a lovely connection with Bruce Marks on many levels, Tony Lander, his wife, was oddly absent, and she was the main reason I had chosen to leave Berlin and come to Ballet West. Ava and Galina both respected her amazing talent as a coach, but she seemed to not really teach at all when I got there. I knew they had children, so I just assumed that it was because of the demands of dealing with children. But karma comes to show us what we cannot see or refuse to see. What I was going to refuse to see was that I had some sort of old, deep, unresolved karmic issues from past lives that would take me a decade or more to completely understand. In that moment, I did not see that I was a part of the same lesson that I needed to learn, and that I was going to be called in to work through some things that I clearly had not seen in a prior life, nor was I even going to clearly see them in this life until it was almost too late. We can try to be aware, but too often we are wandering in our own bubble of oblivion. I would be asked to dance with this karma again, but that karma would not be worked out on stage. Quite the contrary. It would be kept off that stage. I would be kept off that stage, and in my innocence, I would not even see it until much later. Karma leads the blind to the wall. Karma forces us to climb rather than fall. Karma teaches us to open our eyes to another way. Karma reveals much in the heat of dismay. It can take us on a ride that shows us the face of death, and the moment we see it, it will take away our very breath, especially when someone enters the field in good faith. We do not believe that we are being stalked by a wraith. Thanks, everyone.